All right, let's dive into the 2026 Indian Union budget. And look, this isn't just any old financial plan. It's the economic roadmap that's going to directly touch the lives of more than 1.4 billion people. Every single number in this document, well, it matters. A lot.
I mean, just try to wrap your head around that scale for a second. Every decision, whether it's about tax rates or building new highways, sends these massive shockwaves through the entire economy. This one document has to somehow balance the dreams of giant corporations, the real-world needs of families, and the grand vision for the nation's future. It's a huge task. So where do you even begin? Well, before the government can lay out its plan for what's next, it has to take a really honest look at where things stand right now. And that all starts with the nation's annual economic health check. This health check has a name, the Economic Survey. The best way to think about it is like the government's official report card for the economy. It looks back at the last year, figures out what worked, what didn't, and really it sets the whole stage for the budget that's about to come. And the headline number from this year's report card, wow, it's a big one. We're talking a projected real GDP growth of 7.4% for the fiscal year. You know, in a world that's feeling pretty shaky economically, a number like that it's a really big deal. Now, here's where that number gets really interesting. That 7.4% isn't happening in a vacuum. As you can see, it puts India right at the top of the pack. This is the fourth year in a row it's been the fastest growing major economy. It's no wonder the survey is calling India a global bright spot. And the really cool part? This doesn't seem to be a one-off thing. The government's own top economist sees the economy's fundamental strength getting even stronger. The thinking is, with the right moves in manufacturing and exports, this kind of growth could actually become the new floor, not the ceiling. So, with the economy looking this strong, what are people actually asking for? Let's start with the corporate world, and as you can probably guess, their wish list is pretty long. This quote from the head of Blue Dart, it just nails the feeling in the air. There's this sense that with just the right push, something huge could be unlocked. For a logistics company, that means finally connecting road, rail, and air travel seamlessly, all powered by some serious tech. And you hear that same kind of optimism everywhere you look. Pharma wants a big push for R&D. The tech guys want to build out India's AI ecosystem. Automakers are asking for a clear long-term plan for electric vehicles. And real estate is hoping for this industry status tag, which would basically make it way cheaper to borrow money for big projects. You see the common thread here? Everyone's asking for policies that will help them innovate and compete on the world stage. But hey, a budget isn't just about big companies, right? It's about everyday people. So let's flip the coin. What are the hopes for the average Indian household? To really get this, we've got to rewind a little. Last year's budget was a huge deal for taxpayers. A whole new tax system was rolled out that for a lot of people meant a much smaller tax bill, and in theory, more money left in their pockets. So the theory was simple. Extra cash in people's pockets should fuel a massive spending spree. But did it? That is the billion-dollar question. And surprisingly, the data is telling a different story. Analysts are seeing pretty weak growth in what people are actually buying. It seems like even with those tax cuts, people are feeling cautious. You know, with worries about jobs and wages not quite keeping up, a lot of folks chose to save that extra cash instead of spend it. And that totally explains what people are asking for this time around. It's not just about a one-time tax cut. It's about more durable, more reliable income support, like making sure your salary is actually growing faster than prices are. And for those earning a bit more, there's a big hope they'll raise the cutoff for that top 30% tax bracket, which would give a lot of families some much-needed breathing room. So beyond all the immediate wants and needs of companies and households, the budget also has to think long-term. It has to lay out the big strategy for the country. So what is the blueprint for the future? One huge theme that keeps popping up is this idea of indigenization. It's a simple concept, but it's incredibly powerful. It just means making more critical things in India to rely less on other countries. This is all about building up economic self-reliance. And this isn't just some vague dream. The survey lays out a really clear four-part strategy. First, you got the super urgent stuff, like ingredients for medicines, where the goal is to ramp up local production, like yesterday. Then, for things like battery cells, it's a long-term play to slowly reduce how much we need to import. Third, for growing sectors like EVs, it's about gradually building up competitive local hubs. And finally, for really strategic areas like defense, it's about building the entire ecosystem, from talent to infrastructure, right here at home. Okay, this brings us to the heart of it all. The finance minister has to take all of this, the economic reality, the wish lists from everyone, the long-term vision, and perform one final incredibly tricky balancing act. And here it is, this central challenge, the one thing that defines this entire budget. How do you cut down government debt and shrink the deficit, that's the gap between what the government spends and earns, without accidentally killing the economic growth that everybody is counting on? This slide just lays it out perfectly. There are really two main paths you can take. Path one is the aggressive, rip the Band-Aid off approach, slash that deficit, which almost certainly means cutting spending. Path two is more like trying to outrun the problem. If you can get the economy to grow even faster, the debt becomes a smaller piece of a much bigger pie, which allows you to make those cuts more gradually. So at the end of the day, it all comes down to this one question. Which do you prioritize? Aggressive fiscal stability, or do you bet on pushing for even faster growth? It is the ultimate balancing act, and the path India chooses in Budget 2026, well, that's going to set the course for its economy for years to come.